All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again for our fourth live podcast, and I think about our 14th or 15th podcast overall that we've. And you can always see them recorded once this is over. It'll go to YouTube and several other areas where you'll be able to go on and see. But anyway, again, thank you. Welcome back to another episode of On the Verge podcast. Today is August 26th, 2025, and you are still safe today from taxes because we are not in session at the Oregon State Capitol. But I can't say that after Friday. We will be back in session. And um, before we get to all the introductions, first off, I want to introduce myself. I'm Virgil Osborne. I'm your state representative. But I want to introduce a few other things here first. And first, I always like to thank our folks that put this podcast on for us, Little Mill Media. They're here in Roseburg, and like I tell everybody, if you don't like our podcast, that's okay. You don't have to watch our podcast. You can come down here and talk to Justin and the folks, and they will put a podcast together for you. It's not that expensive, and you can do your own thing. So feel free to do that. Also, Twin Peaks Off Road, that's my company, and we'll have a little commercial about them later. We sponsor this podcast as well. And Diamond Lake Mini Storage, great folks. I just spoke with Rick here last week. He finally was able to get on our podcast and see what we do, and very conservative fellow and a good friend of ours. So thank them for all they do for the community as well. So with that said, I want to introduce our guest for today. I'm really excited to have Rick on the show. And Rick, I know who you are. I've seen you for years. You've been around for a long time, and I think you're probably a heck of a lot more popular than me. But go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Rick Dancer. I'm the gray version. I used to have brown hair back in the day.
I
Or I was,
remember.
yeah, I was a news anchor on KEZI for 30 years or so.
Yeah, I won that.
2000, did you guess that right?
Yeah, well, I said KEZI, he said KVAL, so I won.
Well, okay, you're both right because I was at my first TV job was actually in Coos Bay at KCBY, which was a KVAL affiliate, and then I worked at KVAL for 2 years, and then I went to KEZI for 30, and then in 2008 I quit. Ran against the wonderful Governor Kate Brown uh,
Oh,
for Secretary of State and took every county in Oregon but Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington. So she won, and then I started a podcasting business and video business. And so now I do a project for the timber industry called The Truth About Timber, where we go expose all the lies that the lawyers and judges and people like that are telling about the timber industry. And I also do a podcast that's sponsored, and I do video production for other people as well. So
yeah.
it's
Well,
just
fantastic.
I cause problems now. You can.
Hey, you know what? You're on the right team, so we're okay with that. Uh, well, I was on your show. I think it was either when I was campaigning in 22 or it might have been right after I was elected in 23. I don't remember, but I enjoyed coming on your podcast, and it's nice to be with like-minded conservative folks when we're talking about things that affect Southern Oregon. So thank you for everything you do.
Oh,
So
Douglas County was so good to me. It was like I'd leave Lane County where I lived at the
yeah.
time, and I'd go into Douglas County and be free.
I,
I don't have to answer those questions that the Lane County people always ask me. I'm going to give just really good souls, and I did. Douglas County was very good to me.
I would have a hard time being a politician in Lane County. I don't think I could do it. I'd probably be in a lot of trouble. But I want to introduce my other guest. Actually, he's not really a guest. He's kind of our mainstay here. Trent, go ahead and introduce yourself. What do you do? Who are you?
Yeah, I'm still Trent Drake. I'm the Douglas County Central Committee Executive Chair.
Cool. So you get in the middle of all those political battles.
Yeah, I'm the pincushion for the local libs.
You're not my campaign manager, are you?
Yes, I'm that too.
He
Yeah,
does that work too.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm the networking guy.
yeah. No, that's great. Between Trent and I, we know probably half the folks or more, probably 2/3 of the folks in Douglas County. So it's a good fit. And Trent and I have known each other for I don't know ever since I used to have black hair. And
Yeah.
I don't have it now. I have hardly any hair, and most of it's gray. But anyway, well, hey, I a couple of things. Well, I got a few things tonight. I thought we'd touch base on. And I know these things are important to you. You just came off a podcast with Representative Ed Deal. And I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I'm sure you guys probably touched base on some of these things. But one of the things that's a hot topic right now is voter integrity. And I thought it'd be worth talking about tonight. I think that our elections have issues. Um, I have an opinion on this thing. Of course, there's a ballot, a potential ballot measure that's running around in vote by mail, which we support. I'm not out in front of it, but I get why we need to do it, and I just kind of like to have your 2 cents on it, Rick. And what do you think about what's going on in Oregon elections?
Well, I must have been preparing for this because I just last week had Ben Idle, who is the campaign chair of
Mhm.
the End Vote by Mail on my show. And then last night I had Dr. Frank, who is an expert, and he's coming, I think, down your way. He knows Roseburg for sure,
Yeah,
but he is an expert in voter integrity, and he opened my eyes so much to the the crap that's going on, and not just in Oregon. I mean, all over the country. So, to start, I think one thing I always hear from people is if we could just get rid of vote by mail, everything would be better. And I agree, vote by mail is a problem. I now live in Montana, and
mhm,
we go to the polling place, we show our driver's license proudly, we get the ballot, we get in the little booth, we vote, we hand it ourselves so we know where it goes, and it just feels so good, and I trust the system that way. I think vote by mail needs to change, and I would totally support that, but I think it's gonna be a while to get Oregonians on board with that. I
yeah.
think a lot of conservative people, but there's a lot of people that just think, well, it's so easy and it gives more people the chance to vote, which is all BS. Because if people, I don't want people voting who aren't educated.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in the school system. I mean that don't know who they're voting for or what they're. So I don't think having more people vote is necessarily a good thing. I think it's having people who care about the state and the system enough to do their research should be voting.
Well, and I was talking to somebody, I can't remember, it might have been you, Trent, last week about that. And, I was thinking to myself, well, what is the real problem with vote by mail? Well, here's something that I see as a problem, and this is just one of many. But if you have somebody in a household, like for instance, and I could think of somebody off the top of my head, but I won't mention a name, but the mom and the dad, and then you have, a couple of voting age kids that are living at home or whatever it may be, or even other relatives that come into the household, the one person in that house will could essentially vote for 7 people, right? Because they're basically saying, "Oh, I'll fill out your ballot for you. I'll tell you how you should vote, whatever." Now I realize that could still happen when you vote in person, but I to me, I feel like it's like people should be educated. If they don't know what they're voting on, they either shouldn't vote or go research it and find out before they just vote. I don't vote when there's some name on my ballot that I don't know. I leave it blank. Unless it's something I feel so strongly about, I will go and actually research it. And by doing that, you end up with people in positions and boards and committees and higher ups that really shouldn't be in those positions because they're not qualified to do it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Go
Well,
ahead.
Dr. Frank, when he was talking last night, on this very topic, he was saying that, nationwide, what they've seen, and in Oregon specifically, because he says with especially with vote by mail, how horrible it is for us. But
Mhm.
he was saying that it's not even that other people in the household are voting. It's like when they can know they have people going in and they know that grandma died. They can take that ballot, harvest it, vote on it, turn it in, and that's what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
in record numbers. So
Yeah.
it's like when you have this process where people aren't able to check this stuff, um, and he blames it all on. He says you can look at the records from I think it's 2012 when nationwide they centralized voting. So it's no longer your county clerk in charge of it. It all goes to the state. And that's when all of a sudden all these it skyrocketed with
Mhm.
people who are, were dead or weren't supposed to be on it, and a lot of illegal voting, like
Yeah.
people who are not here as legal citizens voting in the elections. And he says, when you have a vote by mail, that's even harder to control. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think people should have to every time they vote show their driver's license. I
Oh,
mean,
I agree.
remember when we had um blockbusters?
Yeah.
You had to show a driver's license to rent a movie.
To rent a movie.
You don't require you to show a driver's license to vote for people who are going to be running our state. I mean, how stupid is that?
No, I totally agree, and I think one of the big keys here would be just cleaning up the voter rolls. I mean, I think our state should do that. If that happened in itself, that would probably change the I don't know that it would change the outcome of all the elections, but it would certainly make the elections more fair.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead.
also would change the election is if every Republican who was registered to vote would have gone out and actually voted.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to diss the Republicans, but I'm just saying the numbers that didn't vote in the election, the last November election with Trump, if those people would have voted, you could have changed the makeup of Oregon and what it looked like. But they,
Yeah, or Oregon went bluer instead of red because we just didn't show up.
well, again, so here you have all these Republicans, and you're thinking, why aren't you, and then you have more non-affiliated voters than even Republicans, and now the non-affiliated voters have passed up the Democrats.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got a power group of people here that we're not reaching, and we're not getting them to the polls. And that's to me, that's the bigger problem right now than vote by mail. If you already got these people registered, why the hell aren't they voting? You know?
Well, and a lot of that is the motor voter, thing that we do
Oh,
in
yeah.
Oregon, which is another horrible idea. And all of a sudden, yeah, Kate Brown. All of a sudden, everybody's registered.
Yeah, with a couple of times Kate Brown. I'm not cussing. It's the only word I've got.
That's just like a four-letter word in my department.
For the pandemic, Kate Brown.
Kate Brown. Oh yeah, I mean, she literally, almost single-handedly ruined the state. I so don't want to ever go back to those days again. But yeah, we've had 38 years of Democrat governors, and that's we've. I often I hear people say, even here in Douglas County, "Oh, we need change. We need change." It's like, well, you have a conservative county here. Everybody in this county that's elected official is Republican. So what change is it that you want? Because we're just going by the law. We're doing what we're being told from the legislature. And the change needs to happen at the level of either, I always say 31, 16, or one, right? We either need to get 31 in the House, 16 in the Senate, or we need to get rid of the damn governor, because any one of those three things will change the outcome of how this state runs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully 26 proves to be a hopefully much better election.
Well, the other issue too is the redistricting. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at how the Democrats redistrict the state for the congressional seats, and almost every one of them goes into Portland. Like,
Yep.
what does Madras, Oregon, have in common with Portland? Why are they in the same district? It's so obvious that, and then I had to laugh so hard for when the Democrats in the Oregon legislature were just appalled in what Texas was doing with gerrymandering. It was just, oh my God, you're destroying democracy, democracy, democracy. It's like, you've been doing this for 39 years, you assholes.
Yeah. And you just did it. I mean, literally in
No,
23.
I mean, Bill Bradbury started it. Secretary of State, he had to redistrict it, and he cheated, and everybody knew it. I
Yep.
mean, Phil Keisling was a Democrat, the Secretary of State before him. He redistricted fairly. He was the last person that did that. And then they blackballed him when he wanted to run for governor. His old party and the unions, they blackballed him so he couldn't run because he had done the fair thing for Oregonians. And then since then, it's just been a cluster screw.
Oh yeah, I mean, they are the bully party. I mean, I can tell you from being on the House floor, if you're a Democrat and you even come close to bucking the system, they will literally threaten you on the floor. I've seen Democrats on the House floor have the whip in their face and make them change their vote before they'll gavel out on a bill, just so that they can win by one. I mean, that's how it's a bully party. You will never see that with Republicans, because I am the whip for the Republican Party. So, I love to be able to go around and say, "Hey, you need to vote this way," and I can think of a couple names that I'd be probably spend a lot of time at their desks, but um, can't do that. I mean, that's the nice thing about being conservative. We just want to be left alone. But unfortunately, we're going to have to get in the game here. Otherwise, we're not going to have the opportunity to be left alone anymore. We're just going to be overran by the bully party.
Like when I traveled Oregon when I was running for Secretary of State, it's like it's a very purple state, and,
Yeah.
leaning more red than anything really when you get outside of the Portland metropolitan area.
Mhm.
This state was redistricted and put in areas. How come we have don't you guys we have 6 don't you have 6 congressmen?
Yes. One Republican.
How do you have yeah. How do you have 40% of Republicans registered, and then Trent can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the number I've heard is like somewhere around 40% are Republican.
Yep.
And then you end up with 5 representatives from, so wouldn't it be closer if it was 2 Republicans and 3 or 4, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think anyone could look at that and say something's not right here when the entire state is being represented by only one party and just except for one Republican way out in Malheur County, you know?
I think you're absolutely right, and you're right on that number. There were 40% Republican voters last year in the election, and actually, Marion County, for the first time in years, turned red,
Huh.
and which was an unusual thing if you look at the numbers between the Republican, Democrats, and non-affiliated voters, and it's a head scratcher when you see that, and there's such a disparity between the amount of number of votes.
Well, and that is a case for cleaning up the voter rolls and voter integrity. I mean, it is, you know, although the gerrymandering does prevent, I mean, let's face it, if any of those districts, which I've seen the fingers, they go all the way to Multnomah County or Clackamas County. So that's on purpose. I know that's why they do it. And you're right. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, one Republican congressman, and his district is literally the entire eastern part of the state and a lot of the southern part of the state. It's crazy.
Right. So
Uh,
how yeah, and it's because it's Walden's old seat or, something
yeah,
close to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That when I lived in Oregon and I was living outside of Springfield in the country, my state district was redistricted, and I'm in the country, and I used to be with Cresswell, um, Marcola, Camp Creek, where I lived, all those areas were together. They redistricted us, and I was all of a sudden in with the University of Oregon and the college professors and all the students. So, what do you think that was about? How do
Here,
you think my vote counted anymore once they got done changing the borders? So all that, and I had nothing to, I have no problem with college professors and liberals and that kind of thing. It doesn't matter, but at least be fair about it, and that just took my voice and all my neighbors' voices away
yeah,
and that was the point. And that's what I think Oregonians need to start understanding is all these little death by a thousand cuts,
yeah.
redistricting, gerrymandering, um, you know, they cut here, they do this, and all of a sudden we've got nothing. As somebody who's like in charge of the Republican Party, what do you think the Republicans in Oregon need to do to get more people involved?
I love that question.
That's a great question, and we've been working, pretty diligently on that. As far as being out in the public, you see a lot of um, the different counties doing little things. The thing we're doing here in Douglas County is we're at events, we're shaking hands, and we're going through and learning how to have conversations with people. The gun show earlier this year, we get a free booth at the gun show every year.
Oh, good. That's
Uh,
awesome.
it's outside, but it's still really kind of a neat thing. And over the course of 2.5 days, we converted, I think it was like 6 Democrats to Republicans, but it broke down to having legitimate conversations with those people that they never heard from their party. And a lot of when I talk to somebody, I always ask them, "How did you vote last year? Were you happy with your vote?"
Did they even vote?
Or if they even voted, But, in the Democrats that I've talked to, they've expounded, if they were happy, I'm great. Because they've made their mind up. I'm not gonna try to twist their brain, but if they say, "No, man," I'm like one couple that came to our booth had Biden hair shirts on, tie-dye, the whole works, and he
At a
just
gun show.
at a gun show, and he just exploded on them, and what I told the guy, I said, "Well, you got a couple of choices." He goes, "What's that?" I said, "Don't vote Democrat no more, or don't vote, that's a stupid choice, or change your party." And he goes, well, how do I do that? And I turned around and handed him 2 registration cards, and we changed his party. But it was afterwards we were talking. He goes, never had a conversation with a Democrat that actually acted like they cared how I voted.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if if people started, because there's so many people leaving the Democrat Party because they don't like the far left. And really that I wish I could come up with a name that would differentiate them, because I know tons of Democrats. I just love them to death. They're great
Yeah.
people. And they think like they really do, not everything, but I don't think like my wife does all the time. You know what I mean? We don't agree on everything. It's
Right.
like they're real Oregonians who care about guns. They care about people being valued, free
Yeah.
speech. You
Yeah.
know, my joke in town is I remember coming to Eugene, 35 years ago or whatever it was. And, an old shitty Volvo with bumper stickers that said, kill your TV, don't trust Big Pharma, don't trust that was a Democrat car. Now that's a Republican car, and the Democrats are the Republicans of the past. And
It's
it's like
changed. Yeah.
it's so weird. You know what I mean? It's like so now you got these people that are driving around and they're trusting all these things that I was told not to trust and never have. You know?
You know, I also want to remind our audience, you can ask questions. You can put them in the comments. I'm starting to see a few comments and questions. And I love Tracy Vandola. She's just a great supporter of mine. And she just wrote in here a little bit ago. She goes, I cannot imagine anybody attempting to bully you, Virgil. And I I can tell you some interesting stories on the house floor that have happened, but I don't want to get into that today. But I'll just leave it at this: you can bully me, but you may not win, and I don't back down. In fact, I don't even have a reverse. I don't. What's reverse? I don't know. I don't. Anyway. Um, and then I see Scott Kaiser wrote, Republicans need to get organized and stop supporting the wrong Republican races. I used to think differently about that. But recently, as I've seen some of our Republicans that are in the legislature, let me go back. In January, Republican caucus got together and we had a caucus meeting before the session started, and we all agreed, all of the Republican caucus, that we would not give any votes to a tax bill. I think there was one tax bill that I can't remember what it was. There was one that we were didn't really it was insignificant. But we all agreed that we would not vote yes on a tax bill. Now here we sit going into a special session at the end of this week, and at least one of our Republicans, and maybe two, possibly three, have all but committed to voting yes on a tax bill. So, and Scott's comment about we need to start supporting the right people, he's not wrong, right? I mean,
No, I agree.
and especially when you're sitting in a that can you imagine what would happen in my district if I voted yes on a tax bill? I'm in a very red district. I don't, I wouldn't make it out of the building. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I think Oregonians are gonna turn on anybody that votes for this. Yeah, and should. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like there's a way to do that, you get rid of them.
Yeah,
And they should know that that threat is there, and then if these guys do, then you as a caucus, I think you just go, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna work to find somebody to get to run against you." And you find somebody to run and because I mean, it's just like a kid.
yeah,
Th I think that people have gotten away with this, that politicians have gotten away with this too much,
yeah.
is not look forgetting about the constituents at home. And that goes for the Democrats too. So if there's 87% was the figure that Ed was throwing out or whatever, let's say 80 to 87% of people in Oregon do not want this tax thing. That means there's a lot of Democrats that should be voting against their Democrat who votes against this or supports
Yeah,
this bill.
yeah.
And so that's how you take care of them. You go, okay, what? Yeah, you didn't listen to me. So now
No, you're gone.
you're fired and you're gone.
Well, and we have a Republican platform, right? I mean, and our platform spells out in the Republican Party how we are basically, it's an outline for how we should act as leaders. And taxes, supporting tax bills or gun bans or abortion bills, that's none of that is in our platform to do. And in a 23 session, it cost Charlie Conrad his position when he voted yes on the abortion and the transgender bill. Um, why he did it? I mean, he sat right next to me on the house floor. I tried to convince him to go to lunch. I'm like, Charlie, just take a long lunch and don't come back. Oh no, he was adamant. He needed to vote yes on this, and I'm like, and it cost him his seat. I don't know that he really cared that much at that point, but he also cost a lot of Republicans lost a lot of faith in our legislature at that time because of it.
So if every Republican voted against Kotek's bill, this budget, and then how many Democrats would have to vote it? Because there are Democrats who are saying, as I've heard, that they're going to vote against it. I mean, because it's possible where you could kill it. I mean, if everybody's stuck together on your team,
Yeah.
and then because every Democrat is sitting there. Like I heard that Floyd Brzezinski is not going to be there. He has a future engagement or some other engagement. I always find that's real funny. Like this is a pretty big deal, but they're looking at their political career,
Oh,
and
it's over. It's over if whoever
right.
votes for this.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna bow to the pressure of Tina Kotek and ruin your political career, or do or even worse, I guess maybe they really do believe in it, and then for that, if 87% of Oregonians don't agree with it, then there's the reason you fire him. You should be working for a different company.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to give them anything but quorum. And we talked about walking out and not doing quorum, but there's a lot involved with that doesn't really work out well. So they're going to have four of us. And I'll be in town. Um, I don't know that I'll be in the building. We're kind of going with whatever our leader asks us to do. And we'll see if they're going to win this vote, they're going to earn it. And if one of our Republican colleagues votes for it, he's going to lose his seat, I'm sure. And it certainly won't be involved in our caucus anymore. But I don't. It's just such a stab in the back to the constituents to vote yes on this ridiculous bill. Um, while I'm sitting here, the messages are still coming in, and I believe Scott Kaiser just said 1,800 testimonies saying no to ODOT TriMet bailout. That tells the story. Yeah, that does tell a story. I mean, I had somebody today ask me, in fact, just a few minutes before I got here, I stopped by the Republican office and a guy I know walked in. He goes, I filled out my testimony today and sent it in. He goes, really simple. He goes, you think it even matters? I said, you know what? What matters is the numbers.
Yep.
Right. I mean, even if you put down one sentence that says, I disagree with this bill, it adds to the numbers, and that is ammunition for us when it comes to campaigning. It's like when you have the gun bills had way more than that, and gun bills had 4,000, 5,000 pieces of testimony. I think it was. I didn't count it, but against those gun bills, and yet they went ahead and pushed one of the three through.
Right.
People don't want this garbage. They do not want this shit, and we just keep doing it. And somebody's going to pay the price at some point.
Right.
Do you remember the one I was so proud of Oregonians on, and I knew it was going to hit them that way. And this is so funny. Was the well water monitoring your well water?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Here in Montana, you get shot. If somebody came on your property and I'm going to measure your well water, well, Oregonians did the same thing. Over water, that is like a basic human thing, and it's like you control my water, you control my life.
Yeah.
I was so proud of you guys. I mean, it was like they killed that one, and I know she's still gonna try to bring it back, but it was like, man, she barked up. I think she probably sat down one night and went, "Holy shit, what have I done?"
Oh yeah, and that went through a committee. They had a Republican as a co-chair on it too, and he got the third degree on that thing. I can't remember the guy's name that started the protest against that. If I said it,
Oh, it's
probably
CJ.
yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
And I mean that just went viral. I mean everybody in the state knew that there was a Republican or whatever, that they knew that was a bill that potentially could be passed. And governors Kotek is up for reelection too.
Yeah.
And if she plan, I can't imagine how in her mind she can think that supporting this bill is going to get her reelected. But on the other hand, I'm glad she is because we can maybe get rid of her.
The problem is she's arrogant.
Oh yeah.
And so you have and the Democrats are arrogant, which is why they're in this position that they're in, and they think that we can do whatever we want and Portland will still elect us and we don't have to care. Why is it that your governor, and I'm going to blame it on you because it's not my governor. Why is it that your governor has a huge chunk of land in her state with people on that land who have voted that they want to look at leaving Oregon to go to greater Idaho? They're willing to leave the state of Oregon and join their land to Idaho because they don't like what's going on in Salem. and your governor has not even sat down and talked with them after repeated invitations. Wouldn't you, as the leader, if Virgil, you get elected governor, and you hear that this much land and these people were that unhappy? Wouldn't you get your ass over there and go, hey, what are we doing? What aren't we doing? What's going on here? But nothing, not a cuz all their focus is on Portland, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Washington County. They can win with those three counties, so that's all they focus on.
Yeah, that's all they care about. And the whole climate change, green energy thing, all that crap. That's their complete agenda. That and DEI, and yes, I agree with you. And I will give Val Hoyle this much. She's on here today. Yeah, I know. Um, but when things go really south with the timber, when things are really bad, she does at least come and engage the timber operators. Not as often as she probably should, but she at least pays attention. And she does pay attention to me when I send her a message or I need something done. It's immediate. I mean, and I don't know if that's just because she likes me or if it's because I assume.
So just don't take a little paper bag, okay?
No, no, I get it. But yeah, I mean, if I was the governor of Oregon, and I knew that 80% of the people are unhappy with the decision that I'm trying to force through,
Exactly.
I'd have a whole different approach. So, I need to. I think we may be cutting to a commercial, and I don't know. I think we'll be back. And what are we doing? Minute and a half?
About a minute.
Okay. So we're going to cut to a commercial here for about a minute, and you guys think up those questions and go ahead and send them into the comments, and we'll see if we can answer them. And we will be right back with you on the Verge. I want to thank one of our sponsors of this show, Diamond Lake Mini Storage. If you need a little extra space, I will always recommend Diamond Lake Mini Storage. They have 45 brand new units ranging from 50 to 250 square feet with a safe and secure and clean facility. But they're more than just a storage business. They proudly support our local community through 4-H, UAC, Meals on Wheels, and other great programs that make Roseburg stronger. Ask about their move-in specials and visit them on roseburgforrent.com. That's roseburgforrent.com, storage with heart right here at home.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
Everybody, hey, welcome back to On the Verge podcast. We are your voice of Southern Oregon, and we only tell the truth here. So welcome back, and we have our guest, Rick Danter, and myself, House District 2 representative. And we lost Trent. He's headed to a PCP meeting, but he'll be back with us again next week. And so we were just talking about voter integrity and kind of the direction of where our state's headed. And I wanted to switch a little bit here because I had a constituent actually that asked me to do this, and he wanted to talk a little bit about forest management. And that is something near and dear to me. And I know, Rick, you've got a lot of a history with this as well. And, I'll just start out by saying, I think, today looking around in where we live here in Roseburg, the sky's a little hazy, but we have a heck of a forest fighter crew here. We have our Douglas Forest Protection Agency. They're amazing. I mean, we just had a lightning storm yesterday that came through and lit a bunch of fires. Those guys get on it really quick and they get it done. The problem is, I'm 57 years old. I grew up here. When I was a kid, and when you were living here as well, we really didn't have the wildfires
No.
that we have today. And people are saying, "Oh yeah, climate change." Well, I think that's bullshit. I think the reason we have wildfires is because we are just not managing our forests, not logging, not taking our timber. But I really want to get your spin on this because I know you've got some kind of deep roots in this. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I have a project that I work on with the timber industry called The Truth About Timber. And what we're doing is changing that message and asking people questions like, why is it okay? So we have this farm to table movement in our state. And, we want you to buy your food within 200 miles of where you live so that's sustainable and it doesn't go make a big carbon footprint. But we somehow are okay with when Oregon, especially Douglas County, grows the fastest, the most Douglas fir on the planet,
Mhm.
but we have and we have the best environmental standards of any country in the world. And yet the lawyers and the judges and the timber haters, they're not environmentalists. These are timber anti-logging groups. They are okay with us shipping logs and plywood from Russia and China and New Zealand all the way. What happened to the carbon footprint thing? That doesn't matter when it comes to. I'm sorry. Where's the consistency here? So you don't want me driving 201 miles to get an egg, but you're okay going on a ship, a steamliner, thousands of miles across the sea to bring timber here when we've got it growing right here, and we take better care of the environment.
Yeah.
Because and that's what we do. That's the bullshit that needs to stop. And you're 100% right. This isn't climate change. This is bad forest management. It's caught up with us. And if Oregon doesn't do anything about it, and well, that and in Montana, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
So the stuff I do is with the AFRC, and we do Montana, Washington. Washington, same thing. Skamania County just did a story on there. People want to go look for them. They're on Rick Dancer TV, YouTube. Just go to Truth About Timber, and I think there's 20 or so different stories. But we just did the Skamania County one, and these people are stuck. All they have is timber. There's nothing. I mean, they don't have the ground for an Intel or a big company like that. They have timber, so their schools are going broke, their
Yeah.
county's going broke, and they're sitting there looking out the windows at thousands, millions of acres of timber. And they were supposed to, in the Northwest Forest Plan, get like something like 100,000 acres. They've never cut more than 30 a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous. Virg,
Yeah.
it's like, it makes me so angry because it's like, these are people. Why is it that we are allowing judges and lawyers to manage our forests when we have loggers and timber operators, Forest Service people? They know how to do it if you let them do their job, but instead it gets tied up in courts. And you know what I just learned? What that just pisses me off is
So,
is that we're actually paying taxpayers. There's a loophole in a law where the attorneys who fight these cases, the anti-logging attorneys, are actually charging taxpayers, you and me, to fight, and they're getting exorbitant fees, more than they deserve, and we're paying for it. You and I are paying for that. So every logger in Roseburg is paying the government, and the
to shut
government
them
is
to shut them down.
paying to shut them down. That is just it's criminal.
Yeah, I struggle with this. I grew up here, right? And almost my entire family has worked for Roseburg Forest Products, and myself included. At one point or another, I was in management there for 3 years, and you know, there's a lot of misconceptions about what happens here as far as timber management. For starters, people, oh, you're cutting the old growth and you're clear cutting the old growth. You can't clear cut on federal lands. That's no longer allowed. You can, select cut, thin cut, whatever you got to do. Now you do see timber companies that will do some clear cutting, and there very rarely is there any old growth left that's worth salvaging to cut anyway. But I have these folks that live in rural areas around here that are clearly, liberal. And they complain to me like, well, I don't know why you guys don't do something about this. Why don't you get some more business here? Why don't you? Okay. They want people, I always have to go back to Tiller because Tiller is one of those areas where, they're so upset down there because the Forest Service left. I mean, they have a small crew left in their ranger station, that the post office left, the store left, the school shut down. And it's like, why do you think that happened? That happened because there's no reason for it to be there anymore. There's no industry. Well, you can replace it with, pick a tourism thing. It's like, I don't care what you do, you will never find a tourist. If nothing will replace the timber industry here, as far as the dollars that go into the community, dollars that are spent. When you're cutting logs, you have a log truck, a tire shop, a chainsaw shop, the guy cutting the timber, the guy running the diesel. I mean, the diesel mechanics. I mean, all that stuff. It all goes away when the timber industry goes away. And then you have people complaining we need change. Like, yeah, we do need change, but I don't think it's a change that they want.
No. And you've got, these timber jobs are good paying family wage jobs.
Yeah.
What tourism isn't.
No.
Unless you own the shop. But
Yeah.
and people don't understand that. These are hardworking people, and they built these communities, and now, especially rural communities, we've let them down.
Yeah.
And we're destroying little towns all over Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho. These little towns can't exist. And what people don't understand is, the ONC timber revenues, that money, the Forest Service was set up so that timber would be cut, and the money gained from that would help offset the costs for schools and for
Yeah.
county governments.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, these new people come in from, I'm sorry, California, I'm going to pick on you, but California or Texas or wherever, but they don't deal with timber revenues. And they come in here and they start changing. No, we don't want to look at old growth forests cut down. It's like, well, when we had those fires a few years ago, with the Archie fire
Archer Creek fire. Yeah.
I was evacuated up in the McKinsey. And that fire on the McKinsey, most of the land that was burned and the timber burned was spotted owl habitat.
Yeah.
The very reason it was set aside and not allowed to be thinned or cleaned up and made it dangerous for fire and susceptible to fire was because of the spotted owl plant. The actual plan killed the bird.
Yep.
That is what it. So we get in there, these environmentalists fight it. I'm going to do one more just because I'm pissed. I did a story and down by Medford, and they showed me a beautiful forest on the top of the hill that was not an old growth forest, but will be. And they managed it. It had a good crown on the top and spread apart. And I was going, okay, this is a good forest. Yeah, okay, now I know what that is. Then there's a road downhill, and then the downhill part. All of that was a cluster screw. There was timber down, stuff had been blown down, nothing had come in, and no clearing, no spinning, no doing anything. And the biologists explained to me the fire is going to hit right down there.
Yep.
It's going to destroy 60 years of work that we have on this old growth forest. So our policies to allegedly save the old growth forests are actually destroying old growth forests.
Yeah.
It's not helping endangered species. In Montana, we have the grizzly bear. They said you're supposed to get 2,000 some odd bear. We have them. Now they go, oh, that's in each region. But you can't change the rules. And the reason the bear aren't surviving it or doing well in these other areas is because they're all wooded. There's no bear habitat. Bears don't eat trees. But the judges don't know that. Virg, I think every judge and that has a decision to make on timber should have to go out and look at a forest and get educated, not just sit there and listen to a bunch of bullshit from some attorney who's going to give them their point of view. They should have to go out, and if you're going to manage my forest in Oregon, then you better learn forest management. So maybe instead of your court degree, you need to go take a degree in forestry and then ask the loggers what they think. It's just asinine.
Yeah. So we had the Archer Creek fire here, and it was, I mean, I worked for the county search and rescue. At that time, I was one of the lead search and rescue team members, and it was crazy. I mean, I've been on a lot of fires, a lot of wildfires. We go out and do evacuations on them, but I've never been in one like that. I mean, there was no managing that fire. It was that out of control. And the reason why in the sector that we were in, the reason why it was that out of control was because it was simply burning through an old burn scar that was never managed. And so you had dead standing timber that was probably been burnt, I think 6, 7 years prior, and you had nothing but brush. And I mean, it took off like a torch. 67,000 acres in the first 8 hours is what that fire burned. And, and now if you drive up to North Umpqua, it's the same way. They did that. All the federal lands they never touched. They didn't take any of the timber out. They could have harvested all of it and replanted it, and we would have had a beautiful forest in another 30 years. Now we have brush that's grown up around dead snags. And when we do get another fire there, and we won't be able to fight it because you can't fight it from the ground. It's too dangerous to go in. And I mean, literally, you can't even take a fire truck up a road when it's surrounded by dead snags that are on fire because you don't know what's going to happen. You might get trapped. And at least with the Archer Creek, I think I saw 3 helicopter drops and I heard 1 tanker drop before they vacated because the smoke was so bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've never been on a wildfire before, that is the number one reason why these wildfires take off here is just piss poor forest management.
Can you imagine being Lone Rock? And so you're a timber company and you manage your forests. You're
Yeah.
taking care of them, you're thinning them, you're making sure everything's, fire resistant, you're planting. And then you got a shitty neighbor next door called the federal government. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing with their property, our property, which I want to remind people, those are our forests. So we should have a say in how they're managed. But they do nothing. And then the fire starts in theirs, and then they destroy the Lone Rock property as well. Happened to Justina's. It happens to all these log companies, and then people are, bitching about them. Oh, you rich log companies. It's like, no, we're taking care of the land. You people, the federal government, you're not taking care of your land, and you're putting my property in danger and all that product and all that work
Oh yeah.
put into it. I mean, it's insanity. And I think I'm just from this series and stuff and the conversation, people are starting to get it. You know what I mean? I think Oregon's on the I don't mean to say
Verge. You can say that.
I think Oregon is on the verge of some real change.
I
And
think so
because
too.
I hope, you know what I mean? I pray for it. I think people are starting to realize that it's not a Democrat and a Republican thing. This
No.
is an Oregon thing. And this is like, you can't mismanage a state for this many years and expect anything to change. And people have been convinced, if you're making over 100 grand a year, you shouldn't have to pay a homeless tax, and that's what's happening in Portland. People, they're taxing people to death. It's like
Yeah.
everything you turn around is another tax. And when Kathy and I moved here, we were like going, wait, we can go to a public because when you pay your DMV, which is a little more expensive than yours, but I also it means when I drive up to a parking area that's a state park, I don't have to pay. I'm not
Right.
I'm not nickel and dime for, oh God, did we bring $5 so we can go to take a hike? It's like I'm a member of the state. And it's like I think that Oregonians, for especially because you're from here, I'm from there.
Oh yeah.
We're independent cusses. That's what Oregonians were.
Yeah.
I did a story on a gold miner, a woman up in Granite, Oregon, way out there,
Oh yeah.
East Oregon. And she took me down into a mine and I said, what's an Oregonian? And her name is Bonnie Skidsdale. She's dead now. She had breast cancer. She's a super cool lady. She was and Oregon is an independent cuss. And she goes, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Because the good thing about it is don't tell us what to do.
Yeah.
The bad thing is about that is that we don't work well with other people.
No, you're not wrong. And I think
You know what? That would be me. It's like, you know what I mean? But I think there's this, that I was saying this with Ed just a bit ago. There's that old Mark Hatfield, um, you know, uh, um, oh, who's our guy? Just said it on the other show, but people like
Vicatia.
Vicatia. I mean, he saved us from the 80s.
Yeah.
You had Tom McCall, you had
Oh, yeah.
people that, that really cared about Norma Paulus, state school superintendent. Phil Kiesling, a Democrat, Secretary of State, who did the fair things for people. There were people like that in both parties that were leaders. And, back when I did this, it's a documentary on Mark Hatfield. Mark Hatfield said on this interview, he said, when I first ran for the Senate, the U.S. Senate, I was a Republican. Wayne Morse was a Democrat, and Wayne Morse supported me over over the Democrat running against me because we both disagreed with the Vietnam War. I said, and at the time, 80% of Oregonians agreed with the war, but they gave us both a pass because back then we were independent and they'd say, but I like everything else he's doing. I don't agree with him on that. He goes, today, I couldn't run again. I'd never win. He says people would never stand by you. And I think that's the influx of people coming in and not assimilating and instead destroying their state and coming to ours and saying, now you guys need to do this. If you built what's that justice bullshit over the highway in Portland, everything
Oh yeah. Young Justice.
social
Yeah.
justice center over the highway, everything would be better. Oregonians are like, no, what would be better is if we really did something about the mentally ill people on our streets. If we really did something to help the farmer and the rancher over in French Glen, when people are trying to take his land away. That's the kind of stuff that would help Oregonians, not some bullshit, make me feel good virtue signaling justice center.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. I wanted to say something about Ed Deal too. So Ed and I are obviously good friends, and I don't remember this.
I heard you're on the verge.
Yeah. That's it.
You're on
Uh,
the verge of being good friends. I'd have so much fun with your name.
oh, I'm sure. And Ed is he's really a rock. I mean, I look up to Ed. He is not afraid to he does the detail work when he says, when you see him post something online, it's not bullshit. He did the work to find out if it was the factual stuff before it's done. And we've gotten together. Recently, well, during session, we sent a letter off to the Trump administration uh, when they were trying. I shit you not, they were trying to kill the spotter or to kill the barred owl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was endangering the spotted owl. And
You're gonna
yeah,
murder owls because their protection plan was so screwed up.
yeah, and I don't remember the amount of dollars, but it was something like, I don't know, 13 billion or 1.3 billion, something like that. And we're going, wait a second. The reason for this problem is because we're not managing our forests. So the spotted owl has no place to hunt because it can't get to the forest floor anymore because of the brush, and the barred owl's just taken over because it's a much more robust owl. And now you're saying you want to send hunters into Crater Lake Park to kill 500,000 barred owls. I'm like, no, there's nothing about that makes any sense.
No.
Not that I love owls, but for crying out loud, what the hell did the barred owl do? He just did what barred owls do.
Right.
Why should he be killed for that? So Ed the champion that, and I signed on a letter with him, and we've done a lot of work together. I think that we have this Oregon Freedom Coalition that we have is an incredible group of conservative folks. Myself and Ed are both on it, and I think we're making some change. We are doing some good work. So I appreciate
You
it.
guys really are. And I mean, for all the years I covered politics as a reporter and stuff, it was the Republicans were, when there was a years when Larry Campbell was a speaker and you had power and there was, a few years there like that. But other than that,
Yeah.
just, and I think it's just, it's God's timing, and I think sometimes that, I was just saying, I am such an anti-pandemic dude. I mean,
Oh,
my wife just goes, "You bring it up," and I could just scream because I think it's because I'm so embarrassed that I actually put the mask on and believed a little bit of it at the beginning. I did not get the vax, and I never would. But I think that the silver lining on that is it woke us up, not woke. It awakened us
yep.
from slumber and said, okay, you know what? This is what's possible. You're electing governors who will actually tell you where you can go, which county can open, where would people have to put mask A or B on. And it was like, this is tyranny. And, and it opened the door for you guys to come in and go, okay, you know what? Now we've got to at least restore balance. I don't want a state government where all the Republicans are in control either.
No,
So
we screwed up.
have to work together. And and like real life, you
Yeah.
yeah, I don't get to work with all the people I love. I get to work with some people that I don't like, but we have to come to some kind of a compromise.
Yeah, and the truth is, most people don't understand how politics works anyway. In the state house, but and in the Senate for that matter too. But the truth is, about 85, maybe 90% of what we do is bipartisan. We all get along pretty good. It's those things like what's coming up here this week. It's those 5% or 10% things that are like we are so far apart. And that's where the urban rural divide comes in because the urban folks go, this is great for us. And the rural folks ourselves, we're going, no, this is the shittiest deal ever. And what might come back in committees is this. It's like, okay, if you like that so much, then make it the law in Multnomah County and see how it does. And in 5 years, if it made a difference, then we'll talk about doing it in Douglas County.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like that. That usually gets me in trouble, but that's okay. Um, and if you watch me in committee, I take no shit. I mean, I have had, I mean, when Rep Travis Nelson comes into my committee and tries to convince me that the race fuel being used at the Portland International Speedway is causing the children that live in the communities around it to get lower test scores in school. I was just, I mean, I of course I kept my decorum. I didn't say exactly what I wanted to say, but that was complete bullshit. So I go, okay, because I was already armed. I knew this was coming to committee, but he's like, well, yeah, because the leaded race fuel, the lead in the fuel is doing this and that. I said, okay. Well, I said, Representative Nelson, what do you plan on doing about all the airplane traffic that goes overhead? Well, airplanes use jet fuel. I said, no, they don't use jet fuel. Jets use jet fuel. Airplanes use high octane leaded gas, have for years. And I quick Google search, I forget the number, but it was something like Oregon had, I want to say over 250,000 private planes, that actually use that. And I said, he wanted to argue with me. And I said, look, the facts are those planes are dumping more lead in the air than anything that could ever happen at Portland International Raceway, which is almost completely dead anyway. And I'm like, the reality of the reality of the whole thing was they don't like the noise. Or so those people moved there after the
Right.
raceway was there, and they wanted to find a way to shut it down. Thankfully, that died in committee, but that's kind of bullshit
Yeah.
that I get.
We had one in in down in by Cresswell where there was an existing dairy farm
Mhm.
and all these new houses moved in and then they didn't like the smell because I mean a dairy farm is
Yeah.
really bad. And
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious because here they have all these big rich houses and they're bitching about and they tried to shut it down.
Yeah.
It's like the dairy farm was there. Perhaps you should have done your research. But that's not Oregon. You know what I mean? That's what slipped into Oregon, and that's not how we are.
No.
Like, people are like, if you wanna paint your door blue and your house is pink, yeah, I may look at you and think you're a freak and it's ugly,
Yeah.
but it's not my business.
Oh, it's your
You know,
house.
that's what Oregonians are supposed to be like.
Yeah.
We're not people who are looking down on people for, you don't do this and you don't go to this. And I mean, and that's what's kind of, but I love seeing what you guys are doing and it's fun. And I really do have a lot of hope, Verge, that things are that you guys are gonna, and like I said, I'm not a diehard Republican. I was always more of an independent, and I became a Republican so I could run. And now here in Montana, I'm a Republican just because they need the help. I mean, we got to keep it, in some direction.
Yeah.
But I conservative in my ideas and my thoughts and my spending and I think, what people like Kotek forget is that's not your money.
Correct.
That's
Right.
that's our money. That's
Right.
hardworking people are doing this, and you guys you're kind of the last I mean you, not her. You're
Right.
the last line of defense. And so you got to protect Oregonians because, um, and sometimes I think you're actually protecting Oregonians from themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've always said like, God, the law, and my constituents, right? I mean, first off, I got to feel comfortable when I'm voting on something that I can morally stand behind it. I am not a politician. I realize I'm elected. I cannot make myself be a politician. And I think Ed Deal and, Dwayne Yunker, Representative Yunker, and a few other, and I think even Representative Scarlatos, I think we all feel very, very much the same. It's like we're there to do a job that the people put us there to do. And I can't be bought. You're not going to buy me off. I'm going to represent the folks. And when the folks don't want me there anymore, then, then they can put somebody else in that spot. But right now, I love fighting for my folks. But
Yeah.
hey, anyway, it's let's see, what time is it? It's a little after 6 my time. I think we're probably going to wrap up here pretty soon. You got any closing thoughts, Rick?
No, well, thank you for having me on. I guess my closing thoughts to that would be to your audience is, you know, i- if you don't want this thing to pass, then you need to be writing right now
Yeah.
on emails and don't just write the people you like. Write to people that are Democrats. If you have represented by a Democrat, then write the Democrat and write these folks and tell them you do not want this to pass. And if they pass it, that you will be voting against them in the next election. And be kind. You can be firmness and kindness are there's a lot of wimpy people around and they think if you're like, I'm sure Virgil's like, if you're in somebody, if you're forceful with your language, people sometimes think you're unkind. What I'm saying is don't come up, hey, dumbass, you better not vote for that bill or I'm going to take your ass and throw you out. That's no, you're going to get deleted. I would delete you.
Yeah.
And just
I got lots of those.
so go in and you just say, I don't like this. I don't want you to do this. And I will. This is what I will do if you do pass this. I will never vote for you again. And I will work to make sure you don't get elected. That isn't mean. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And then I think you can stop this thing if you get enough people to go in there and scare the hell out of those who are thinking they're going to vote for this.
Yeah.
And because whether they think it's the right thing or not, it doesn't matter. 87% of Oregonians think it's not the right thing. So
Yes.
that's what matters. So
That's
those
what
people,
matters.
yeah, those people, whether they think, well, but I know inside information. Oh, horse shit.
No.
You don't know anything. What you are not listening to is your constituents. They're there for them. You're not Tina's little minion,
Yes.
So put on your big boy and girl pants and go do the work of your people, because otherwise you're going to lose your freaking job, and you deserve to. That would be my parting shot on the verge.
I have to say
On
amen.
the verge of saying bad words.
I have to say amen to that. And I have to add to that one thing. It reminded me of something that's happened to me a few times in the last year or so. I get nasty, nasty, nasty postcards from people, right? And sometimes they're letters, handwritten and hand mailed. And guess what? They never do. They never sign them,
Yeah.
and they never put a return address on them. So I will today state on my show that if you send me that, I guarantee you it will go into the round file and it will not be read. So if you don't have the if you don't seriously if you don't have the guts to sign or put an address or even a phone number, then you're just wasting your pen and your ink. So anyway,
That's how I am online with anonymous people.
oh, same thing.
You don't have the balls to put your name on there,
Yeah.
your real name, and your 1776 do-gooder or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I don't even read your comments, and I take them down because I don't want anybody else having to read it either. So
Yeah,
just
exactly.
do what you're doing and keep your podcast going. That's a way to talk to the people, and that's what they
Absolutely.
need.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on. Like-minded folks, it's awesome to talk, to have a conversation about these kind of things. And hopefully we can get you back. I'd love to come on yours sometime. And,
Yeah.
you
Bit them.
yeah. So, all right, buddy, we'll take care and we will catch up with you later.
All right. See you, Virg.
All right. Bye-bye.